Democrats stand for
subversion.
They're trying to figure out how to program people before things become a story.
Look at how the Democrat Party has used the mainstream media to subvert people's thoughts into believing that free speech is a right-wing Republican extremist MAGA value instead of one of the values that all freedom is built upon. Because if we don't have the right to speak freely, do we have a right to think freely?
No, free speech is not some right-wing reframing of whatever. It's the foundation of Western civilization.
Facebook announced it is getting rid of fact-checkers and also making major changes to what content is allowed. This is just the latest move as Facebook's parent company Meta and founder Mark Zuckerberg work to very publicly win favor with Donald Trump.
See how he promotes that idea to win favor with Donald Trump? Is he's publicly trying to win favor with Donald Trump, and so then therefore it's a Trumper, right-wing, extremist, MAGA kind of belief system to support free speech and non-fact checkers. Forget the details of whether fact checkers were accurate or not. Notice that CNN's not attempting to prove whether fact checkers were accurate or not. They're just trying to question, like, why would you get rid of fact checkers if not for you just being an extremist right-wing MAGA Trumper? It has to be about that. Mark Zuckerberg has all of a sudden, after millions and millions of dollars given to the Democrat Party, he is now an extreme right-wing Trumper. That's actually what happens, and that's what's happened, and that's what CNN wants you to believe.
You smear somebody with falsehoods and all the rest, and then you merchandise it, and then you write it, and they'll say, "See, it's reported in the press that this, and this," so they have that validation.
The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms. More specifically, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes similar to X, starting in the US. We tried in good faith to address those concerns without becoming the arbiters of truth. But the fact checkers have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created, especially in the US.
Wow.
I love how she says, wow, like she's shocked that they would get back to free speech, that they would do away with the lying fact checkers. That's what's so funny about it, is we can just call something like fact checkers. We can just call them fact checkers, and then it's automatically assumed that everything they say is true. But yet what we found is that when you pay fact checkers to say things you want them to say, they no longer become fact checkers. They become salesmen who are selling a narrative that you want to sell. And that's what we've seen from the fact checkers on Facebook. And why? Because they're bought and paid for by Facebook. It's not some private company. It was always a company that was paid for, and they were all employees of Facebook.
So what's going on here?
Yeah, John, this is a major reversal. Let's not forget that the reason that Facebook and Meta introduced this third-party fact-checking system in the first place was because it was accused of allowing foreign actors to spread disinformation and discord around American political elections.
It was the government, well, the FBI, using a fake dossier produced by the Hillary Clinton campaign to investigate Donald Trump, and therefore they faked the entire thing and made up the entire Russian collusion story, and the media rushed with it, ran with it, and still to this day talking about this Russian collusion thing and this Russian thing. That's kind of why, but tell the deeper reason why is because the media and the government and the Democrat Party lied about Russian collusion and then pushed censorship upon Facebook, and that's the truth behind it. Not just the generalized, well, because they were accused of foreign. No, because the Democrat Party used lies to accuse them of allowing foreign actors. That's the truth.
Meta has announced this morning that it's making major changes to its content moderation on Facebook and Instagram. What do you think of this?
Look, it's the lack of profiles and courage. Would Zuckerberg do this if Trump had lost the election?
No, Zuckerberg probably wouldn't have done this if Trump hadn't won the election, because the Democrat Party and the media are promoting an idea of censorship. And so, of course, now you have to lean upon the right to allow you to be free, because the Democrat Party believes in imposing its will, its socialist communist will, upon people. And part of that is taking free speech. So, unfortunately, free speech has become a Republican value because the Democrat Party has become anti-free speech. They used to be the party that actually stood for free speech. That's the thing I liked about the Democrat Party. I was never really a Democrat, but I liked that about them. They were the ones that back in the 80s and 90s, they were the ones standing up against the Republicans who were promoting censorship of music and different things like that. Little did I know that all those things were actually trying to destroy our country and destroy the moral fabric of our society. But, I still believe in the freedom to be able to do those things. We morally should protect against those things. But the Democrats used to be for that. And now we see politicians like this guy promoting the idea that it's spineless, it's weak, it's a lack of courage to stand up to the government when the government is trying to impose its will upon you when it doesn't have the legal right to do so.
Let's just remember in 2017, the entire intelligence community said that the Russians attacked through social media our democratic process, and they did it to help the Trump campaign.
That same intelligence community lied about the Hunter Biden laptop. That same intelligence community illegally obtained a secret warrant through the FISA courts to secretly monitor and surveil what was at the time pre the first presidency, Donald Trump. And so that same intelligence community that you're talking about has been found to have been corrupted. And I mean, it's just the facts is there, the evidence is there. So when you use a intelligence community that has been corrupted and their word has now been tainted with garbage, we now can't just believe everything that they have to say.
There is a balance to protect our First Amendment rights. But when you take away the guardrails and you see the far right connections here, it's a great concern.
There are really no guardrails on free speech. The fact that you're saying it like that is that, again, that mental subversion of making people believe that there should be guardrails on free speech. There's only the small, rare cases. I can only think of one, like right now, like direct threats on somebody. And even then, plenty of people make threats all the time that they don't follow through with. So we have to be careful on those. But yelling fire in a movie theater, or as in the case of if Donald Trump had actually insurrected and pushed those people to do something on January 6th, then that's like kind of that's when your free speech goes too far. You're inciting violence, you're calling people to violence, or you're calling people to be injured because they're going to trample each other and yell and fire in a movie theater. So there's these rare cases where we have guardrails. Outside of that, there aren't guardrails to free speech. There were never meant to be guardrails to free speech. You don't see guardrails in the First Amendment. You don't see guardrails in our Constitution, Declaration of Independence, or Bill of Rights. You don't see guardrails in there. You see warnings about people using their free speech to lie. You see warnings of these things, but you don't see this idea that free speech needs guardrails. You actually see the opposite of that. So America was founded on the opposite belief that having guardrails on free speech is not really freedom. And then therefore the government uses that to impose its will upon people. That's why America was founded. That's why the First Amendment is the First Amendment. And it's backed up by the Second Amendment. Because once we stop talking, we're going to start acting on number 2, right? And so we should keep talking and talking. But if you're not going to allow me to talk, we got problems, because there's a truth out there that just because you don't want to hear it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Is social media's role to prove to you what is true and what is not, or is its role to be an open platform for discussion, debate, opinion, whether folks believe something or not believe something? I would say that's really where social communication, that's more of the role of social media, not to be the police of what's true.
Without using words like police, and I'm glad we're having this discussion because it's an important one here. Whose responsibility is it then to talk about what's true and not true?
Yours, mine, my kids. Our communities. We all have that personal responsibility. It's not the government's. There's a freedom of speech aspect to this, of course, but it's not the government's role to necessarily tell you absolutely what is true and what is not true, what you should believe, judge you on what you believe and how you're voting. Yeah.
We're not talking about the government. We're talking about Facebook.
See, that's just such a piece of crap way of doing things. Is, well, we're not talking about the government. We're talking about Facebook. Facebook would not have had the ideas to censor people if it wouldn't have been the government pushing and promoting those ideas. Stop playing stupid, okay? Free speech and freedom is something that people will seek after. Government is the one who thinks it's their job to impose their will upon people and to take that freedom. Facebook, X, all the other social media outlets, they would have, Instagram, some of the other, they would have all been more free if it wasn't for the government imposing its will upon people. So don't pretend as though these social media outlets were doing this because it wasn't being pushed down from the government. It's a stupid argument of trying to split hairs and saying this is a private company. And Democrats love to do this crap because they think that, well, it's a separate because it's private, even though it's the government telling them to do it. It's connected. It's the same connection. And it should be up to us to be the ones to determine what's true and false. Maybe we shouldn't sit back and listen to all of our news on Facebook or all these others and then just be spoon-fed what we want to hear. Maybe we should actually seek out some information and maybe know what's really going on. When we hear something, maybe we go find out the opposite of that and find out what the real truth is, instead of allowing ourselves to be mentally subverted, whether it's on Facebook or on Fox News or Newsmax or CNN and MSNBC. The fact of the matter is we should be paying attention to this crap for ourselves and stop allowing ourselves to be mentally subverted, because I can see that there are people on the right who believe some extremely stupid right-wing stuff. I mean, just extremely, and I can see it just as equally on the left. And this comes from being mentally subverted to made to believe that whatever the right wing says is right, whatever the left wing says is right, when the truth falls in the middle a lot of times. And free speech is one of those things that doesn't fall on the left or the right. It should fall in the middle for everybody to enjoy. But instead, free speech has become a right-wing value because the Democrat Party's anti it.
We humans are, we have an irrational animal side and a rational, spiritual side, and they're often at tug of war, and it's that really base irrational side that just says, oh, I don't want to hear that, and that person must be silenced. There's a war between those two energies in us, in our civilization.
We saw this with Hitler. As Hitler villainized the Jews the same way the Democrat Party has villainized everything right-wing, everything freedom, everything, this is what you do. You target and you villainize everything that party represents, and then therefore anytime that party gets talked about, people are afraid, people are fearful, and then they run in terror. And that's what people who buy into this CNN, MSNBC crap, this is what they believe. Because they have been mentally subverted to believe that that anybody who believes in free speech is a bad person, is a right-wing MAGA extremist. Because they either are unwilling to look beyond the information that's spoon-fed to them, or they're not really intelligent enough to do that. And I'm reluctant to say that because we see the Democrat Party and we see Democrat supporters constantly criticizing right-wing or Republican voters for not voting their way, and then claiming that it's because we're less intelligent. But the truth of the matter is that when you believe lies and you believe in censorship, you have to be less intelligent, or you have to be mentally subverted. If you're still with me, thanks for watching. Consider hitting that like and subscribe button, maybe commenting or sharing. Thanks again for watching.
If your instinct is to silence those people, I would suggest that you have not evolved to where you need to be in the history of the Western Enlightenment